Just another brother with another humble question. Just another brother with another humble question.
Welcome to A Brother with Questions. I am your host, B. Period. Well, we back, man. We back, man. We're gonna be reacting to this interview. So if you saw my last video, I was reacting to the conversation about this interview, and now I am reacting to the actual interview. I saw it. A lot of people didn't like the title of my last video. For those that missed it, it was called "Don't Bite the Hand That Feeds You." And so we had a conversation about what the clips that we saw of the interview. And so now the actual interview is here. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to play a couple of things from the interview. But for me, everything I said in my "Don't Bite the Hand That Feeds You" video, to me, has proven to be true based on watching the entire video. And I'll get into some of those reasons why, but I feel like I'm vindicated from a video because the couple comments that I saw were talking about how I was commenting even before seeing the interview. But after seeing the interview, everything that I said holds to be true. And so they before I forget, please like, subscribe to the channel, man. Click share for me too. Share it with somebody. Let them know. Did you see this dude, Brother with Questions? He be tripping, man. That's what my wife told me. I was tripping, but that's okay. Let's just go over, run down some of the topics. So he set him up. You know what I'm saying? He did the good setup, right? He did the good setup. He started him off easy. He started him off with a little intro, of course, praising, congratulating him on what he's done in life. Then he started him off with some of the news on X. He hit him with a couple of Donald Trumps. Hey, Donald Trump, I saw you had lunch with Donald Trump. What did you think about that? What did he have to say? Then they went to more Elon praise, right? They talked about the new Tesla Roadster that's coming out. Sounds amazing. The man said he's going to do 0 to 60 in less than a second. Are you kidding me? Oh, all right. I got to get me one of them things, man. Then he talked about Elon Musk. And Elon Musk talks about how he relaxes playing video games. And then Don started hitting him with the hard stuff. So then Don hit him with, and I'm just run down the topics, and we're gonna go through a couple clips anyway. Hit him with his tweeting and drug use. Then he hit him with another tweet that he made that Don Lemon circled, and sort of he had a box that he was going for, and so he was saying that he was referring to the Great Replacement theory related to Jews. So he hit him with that. Then he hit him with how content is moderated on X. Then he hit him with the famous DEI. Everybody's talking about DEI. Then he hit him with some trans rights, and then he closed it out talking about advertisers on X. So Don set him up with some easy stuff, and then he started hitting with the hard stuff, and that's as the questions got more and more. You could see as you watched the interview, you could see how Elon was getting more and more agitated by some of the questions and some of the remarks from Don as it went along. I was watching some of the comments on the video, and it was like somebody said you could see the moment that Elon was like, you know what, he's done. and I feel what they were saying as you saw the pushback, or not even pushback. I looked at, you can tell a lot in how people look in their facial expressions, and I think you could tell a lot from Elon's facial expressions as this interview went along. But let's check out a couple clips, and then I'll close this out with my full thoughts on everything. So in this particular clip, this is where he talks about Elon and his ketamine prescription that he has.
Listen, I'm not asking you anything that anyone else hasn't asked you about your controversial stuff that you tweet. You post a lot of controversial stuff. Is that considered blowing off steam?
Well, I guess I do enjoy using the platform. I mean, I do call the X platform the PvP, or player versus player platform. So in video games, there's player versus like environment, um, where you're not playing against other people, and then there's PvP, which is like hardcore. You're actually playing against other people, and
But that's blowing off steam for you.
yeah,
Yes.
it is to some degree, not always. I mean, obviously, I use it for to post jokes, to post you know, sometimes trivia, sometimes things that are of.
So he's talking about his use of Twitter, is what they're talking about there. I'm gonna speed this up. I know they do eventually get to the question about ketamine use here. Let's speed this up.
What I find ketamine is if you like literally like a chemical for an extended period of time, like I can't really get wasted. Things that are of great importance.
So you do a lot of it at night, like late at night. So when you're doing this, are you sober when you do it?
Almost
Are
always,
you
yes.
under the influence of anything?
No, I don't drink. I don't really. No.
So you got no drink, no smoke, no nothing. I mean, you smoke pot with Rogan.
I had one puff.
Yeah.
I think anyone who smokes pot can tell I don't know how to smoke pot.
But you've admitted that you have a ketamine prescription.
Yeah.
What's that for?
Well, I mean, it's pretty private to ask somebody about a medical prescription, you know. But I think it's something I'd say like there are times when I have sort of I don't know, like a negative chemical state in my brain. Like
so right there, you can see from the look on his face, he was like, "Really? That's where we're going with this?" But okay, I'm gonna indulge you. But you could see, I think, from that moment, he told them, you know, I think it's pretty private to ask somebody what they have a medical prescription for. But you can see he really didn't appreciate that. But that was just the beginning. Like I said, it gets, there's more. There's more. Let's jump over to when he was asking him about some of the content on X. Here we go.
You quoted a tweet that called it a Hispanic invasion.
if I quote something, it doesn't mean I agree with everything in it. It's just something that I think this is something worth people should consider.
Why would you quote something that you didn't believe?
Because anything I quote is going to have a whole range of statements. Doesn't mean I agree with everything in it.
Do you think if you moderated yourself more, if there was better content moderation on the platform, that you wouldn't have to answer these questions from reporters about the great replacement theory as it relates
I
to
don't have
Democrats,
to answer these questions.
great replacement theory as it relates to Jewish people? Do you think that?
I don't have to answer questions from reporters. Don, the only reason I'm doing this interview is because you're on the X platform and you asked for it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I would not do this interview.
So you don't think do you think that you wouldn't get in trouble, or you wouldn't be criticized for these things?
I'm criticized constantly. I could care less.
There it is. You can see how the disdain that he had for that first question about his prescription ketamine. Now he's getting a little bit more pushback and like, really? So you're gonna keep going with this, huh? Like, dude, what did he tell him? I don't need to answer questions from the press. It's like, the only reason why I'm here with you is because you're gonna be on the platform, bro. Like, don't get it twisted, dog. This is I'm not doing these interviews because I have to. I'm not sitting down with you because I have to. I'm sitting down with you because I was getting ready to pay you. Woo, it's getting a little bit more intense. Let's keep going. I just want to show you how the intensity level from Elon is increasing as this goes along. Let's jump ahead. Eventually talks to him about DEI. Let's check it out.
Okay, so listen, let's talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. All right, that's been a target of yours lately on X. There was a repost of Ben Shapiro that you claim that DEI is killing people. Specifically, you point to medicine. You claim that DEI programs are putting people at risk. Do you really believe this to be true? And what evidence do you have to support it?
What I was referring to there was that if we lower the standards for doctors, such so that they, if the test for a doctor is lowered, then the probability of them making a mistake and killing someone is obviously going to be higher.
Wait, say that again. I'm not sure I understand what you said. I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Yes, if the standards for passing medical exams and becoming a doctor, or especially something like a surgeon, if the standards are lowered, then the probability that the surgeon will make a mistake is higher. They're making mistakes in their exam. They may make mistakes with people, and that may result in people dying.
What evidence do you have, though, that they're lowering the standards? There's no evidence of that.
I believe there is.
There's no evidence of that, Elon. What is the evidence?
I believe they have literally lowered the standards at Duke University, and that is what the article was referring to.
So you can see there, getting a little bit more intense, a little bit more pushback from Don, more pushback from Elon Musk. Yeah, you can see that the intensity level is just continuing to rise. Again, whether you agree with Elon that DEI is going to lower the standards, to me, it's really neither here nor there. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion about DEI. And for those that don't know, that refers to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so clearly he thinks, though, that there are programs being put in place that are going to lower the standards. In this particular case, obviously they're talking about medical professionals, and Elon's assertion that if you lower those standards, it leads to potential higher risk in the future. Again, Elon is entitled to Elon's opinions, and what Elon thinks is what Elon thinks, is how I feel about that. But let's keep going. Let's see, we get a little bit higher. Here we go. We talk about the trans rights. Again, I just want to show you how the intensity of this conversation continues to increase.
I did not.
Let's talk about trans rights and the woke mind virus, because you talk about that a lot. You're right about that a lot on the thing. You have been deeply outspoken about the issue of trans rights. You posted trans rights. You posted that pronouns in bio mean the woke mind virus ate your brain. Do you know what the term woke actually means?
It's come to mean a lot of things.
But what originally it was meant to mean. It's just being aware of.
I like the look off. You see the look off? The look off is like, oh, man, how much more time I got with this fool? The look off is killer, man. I'm telling you, the facial expressions are saying it all in this particular interview. I'm going to skip ahead to the last little part where it really, to me, hits the peak of it all.
A free speech absolutist, right? And that is part of the First Amendment. Also, the freedom of expression falls under that First Amendment as well. So why can't people choose to identify with the gender that they feel comfortable with, or with a use a pronoun? Isn't that part of freedom of expression?
I guess no. They can ask others to do whatever they feel. They can ask others to do anything. It's a different question whether they mandate that others do that thing.
Okay, let's talk more about free speech and for advertisers, right? Because all this controversy, I believe, as you know, has made X less appealing to advertisers. About half of them have left the platform. You call advertisers that left X.com. You said they were oppressors. You've even gone as far as saying it publicly that they can go F themselves or go fuck themselves.
If they're going to force censorship on the company before advertising, then obviously I find that unacceptable.
You find it unacceptable. Why is that not a form of free speech? They are free to advertise where they want. They're not beholden to. They're not obligated to advertise.
They're not obligated.
On X.com.
Right.
So, how is that not free speech?
That's. Whereas the other platforms will censor on behalf of advertisers, the X platform will not.
Okay. So, but you think you don't think it's okay for them not to advertise with or have their content or their advertisement next to something that is anti-Semitic or
That is a different question. You can absolutely choose where next to which content do you want to advertise into appear. Absolutely, of course, and we have, I think, very good ad placement controls in this regard.
Yeah. So you said that they could.
And so there you go. You see again. You see that intensity level rose a little bit throughout the interview, especially as the interview. There's even a part, and I didn't play it, but there's any party telling us, "Hey, man, you got 5 minutes left in this conversation. I suggest you choose your questions wisely." But so I mean, that was the interview that they did. In terms of the learning anything from the interview, I think if you listen to Elon on a Joe Rogan, I think you learned a lot more about Elon as a person listening to a Joe Rogan podcast. What Don Lemon did is what Don Lemon likes to do, I think. Don Lemon set out to, quote unquote, catch Elon in a gotcha mode. Like I said, he spent the last half hour of his interview pulling up tweets or pulling up statements that Elon has made and then pushing. So what do you think about this? Well, you said this, so what does that mean? And so he's pushing and interrogating him about all of the different statements that he's made throughout the years about different topics. And I said in my first video, don't bite the hand that feeds you. And so what I meant by that is, if you want to get paid through X, in this case, he was trying to get paid through X, and I know he's gone out, and even he gives a disclaimer at the beginning of the video that his partnership with X, apparently ending, isn't going to stop him from doing his show, and I don't think it should. But I do understand why Elon has decided to move on, because here I am. I don't do interviews with reporters. That's number one. And then you bring me onto your platform and you ultimately interrogate me on all the things that left-leaning reporters have wanted to be interrogating me on, and then you take that role and then you do that. And to me, I think you have to read the room, right? You see throughout that interview that the tension in that room is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so as an interviewer, it would seem to make sense to me that as you see that the intensity level is increasing, that you would at least pivot to bring it back down to a more palatable level so that you can continue, as opposed to pushing, when at the end of the day, you understand who you're talking to. You understand you're talking to someone that doesn't sit down with reporters, who doesn't feel the need to answer point by point every single thing that I say. And then you sit down with him, do that, and then you're surprised that when you finish, he's like, you know what? I don't want to do this no more. Give me my money back. I mean, come on, man. It is so simplistic, because I think about me as an individual. I have a job. I have a 9-to-5. I can't go into my 9-to-5 and then point check my employer, or my boss, if you will, for every single point of every single thing that he said, and then expect him to feel good about our relationship. You can't go to your job and sit down point by point and criticize and question every single thing that your employer has done and then expect him to feel good about y'all working relationship. It's just not realistic. So for Don Lemon and for his defenders to expect him to be able to question point by point every single thing that you, as a left-leaning person, ultimately, because that's where this is coming from. If Don Lemon was Tucker Carlson wouldn't have had that type of interview with Elon Musk. No, you had that interview because you disagreed with all those points that you were making. And so in your disagreement, you wanted to make your point, to catch him up, to let him know face to face, I disagree with you, and here's why. because he doesn't sit down with reporters, so nobody can do that. So again, if that's what you wanted to do, that's fine. I don't even have a problem with it, because you know what? Don Lemon was being Don Lemon. So whatever. I don't care. But I am going to say, when you want to be you, but you want somebody else to pay you to be you, I'm not saying you got to curb being you, but I'm saying you got to check the room. I'm saying that when you see that this thing isn't going quite the way that you want, then you need to curb around. You need to figure out a better way to get your point across without necessarily taking the temperature of the room down. And that's going to be true in every single one of our lives when we're dealing with somebody who's cutting us a check. And if we don't want to do that, if we feel like we should be able to have the right to say whatever we want to say anytime we want to say it, well then, you know what? Like Don Lemon, we're going to find out that those checks ain't going to always be cut in the manner in which we want them to be. Oh yeah, they're going to pay you for the time that you've done, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to keep you around. And Don Lemon learned that lesson. And quite frankly, we've all know that lesson. And so while anybody's surprised why this partnership is over, is you're tripping. Because none of y'all do that to y'all boss. None of y'all do that to the person who's cutting y'all a check. Y'all may push back, but y'all push back with respectability. Y'all push back and you learn when, and you read the room and understand when you need to pull back and curb around what you're saying, in the sense that, oh, well, let me pull back and say it this way instead. Y'all recognize that. In that interview, Don Lemon pushed, and then found out at the end, oh, he ain't like this. So I stand on what I said. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. And it's not about curbing who you are in order to get a check. It's not about that. It's about understanding the room and understanding when you need to pivot. The one thing I'll say, and the reason why I think he has good interviews with Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan is not trying to check him on everything he said in life. Joe Rogan is trying to understand why he makes the decisions that he makes. Had Don Lemon went in that interview understanding or trying to understand why he makes the decisions he makes, I don't think he'd have been in this problem, in this issue. I think he still had that big old partnership with X. But the fact that you went in the point check and try and catch him up in gotcha moments, I think that's why you're there. And we can all agree that Don Lemon did what Don Lemon does, and he has a right to do that, and I think he does too. So I'm not even saying that he was wrong for doing what he did, but I am going to say, and I'm going to stick to it, don't bite the hand that feeds you. You want to push back, you want to call him out, fine, but don't get mad. And to his point, I don't think he's mad. He doesn't seem to be mad. But don't be surprised when they go, you know what? I'm good. I'm going to keep my checks. Have a nice day. Man on B, period. I appreciate y'all, and I'm out. Until next time.